How's it going, everybody? You're with Rob for the Pickleball Tech Dude, and today we're going to wrap up an absolute onslaught of Boomstik videos from the past couple of weeks on social media with my full and unfiltered thoughts on this paddle's performance. We're going to start with 5 key takeaways that you should have about this paddle in general. I'll talk about my full gameplay experience, and then we'll finish off with some comparisons to everything else on the market. To get straight into things, the first thing that you should know is the shapes. The Project Boomstik will only be available in elongated and wide body shapes that were introduced in the SLK era line. There will be no hybrid release. Selkirk's idea behind this, which will also apply to future paddle releases, is that there are way too many definitions of what a hybrid paddle actually is on the market, and therefore they've done this in an effort to reduce confusion among their consumers. You have a very clear elongated or wide body option. I'm inclined to agree with this opinion, number one, because we've seen what happens when a company produces a wide variety of options that overloads a consumer and sometimes confuses the common nomenclature that we use online to describe certain paddle shapes. Therefore, they're simplifying the entire buying process. And the second reason is because I think the elongated Boomstik has a lot of the characteristics that make people prefer hybrid paddles over elongateds anyways. So I would say if you're an elongated or hybrid paddle lover, then the elongated Boomstik will be up your alley regardless. Otherwise, you would obviously go for the wide body. The second key takeaway you should make is what you can see on the outside, being the face of the paddle and of course the MOI or moment of inertia tuning system on the sides. If you've been wondering what those shiny red things are on the side of the paddle, now you know the name. Again, it is an MOI system, and it's made of pure copper with a sheen plastic coating on the top. And you'll have 2 on both the elongated and the wide body paddles at roughly the 3 and 9 positions, weighing 7.5 grams each. What Selkirk discovered through R&D and of course through physics is that the further away you place the weights from the percussive center of the paddle, the higher you increase the twist weight numbers on paper and the stability during play. And therefore, they did the most logical thing, which was putting the weights on the outside even further from the center than companies that are putting the weight internally. On paper, the twist weight numbers speak for themselves. The wide body Boomstik will have the highest twist weight of any paddle on the market so far. And playability wise, both paddles do feel like they have a sweet spot that is dramatically increased horizontally, specifically where the MOI weights are placed. You're also probably wondering if you can move the MOI, as it looks like it should slide up and down the sides of the paddle. And the answer is technically yes. While it's not meant to slide and fix at different points, you can technically remove the MOI entirely. However, every paddle will come with a sticker on it, stating that if you do try to move the MOI, it can cause damage to your paddle. I, of course, did try to remove the MOI regardless, purely for the sake of thoroughness and science, and, well, this was the result. And when it comes to the design of the paddle overall, especially on the face, I do think that the Selkirk Labs paddles always look super sick, but on the Boomstik, we also get Infinigrit, which we currently only have on the 007s and on the updated Lux paddles. Selkirk emphasizes and even showed us the in-house testing that they do to prove that Infinigrit has 3 to 4 times the longevity in terms of texture for spin as what we consider raw carbon fiber. Now, whether or not that's true will probably get confirmed in the coming months, as this is the first paddle Selkirk has made with Infinigrit that I believe is actually good enough to play with for a long time. Key takeaway number 3 is where we dive into the internal construction. The Boomstik is a Gen 4 paddle, meaning its internal core is purely made of foam. And how Selkirk has designed this is what they are calling a pure foam center with an EVA power ring. In layman's terms, this is the second floating core Gen 4 paddle to come to market since the Honolulu J2NF paddles. So think about all the characteristics you may know and love from current Gen 3 floating core paddles like the 11624 Powers, the Thrive Project Fury, and others, but instead make the polypropylene core pure EPP foam. Selkirk is being very tight-lipped about their unique blend of EPP in this paddle. However, the main takeaway is that on paper, this should be much more durable than any Gen 1 through 3 paddle. Key takeaway number 4 you probably could have seen coming from a mile away, but it is the power. Now, some of you may be wondering, Selkirk already came to market with a durable Gen 4 paddle in the Project 008 with pure foam technology that they are also marketing in the Project Boomstik. So, how can this paddle be so much more powerful? Essentially, the answer is in the EVA foam ring. The original Project 008 at a solid block of foam was absorbing all of the ball energy and deflecting it without giving much back, leading to a lack of power. Versus the Boomstik with the EVA foam ring. It allows that pure foam core center to flex and displace further and really pocket the ball and launch it off with significantly more power. Now, the real question is how much more power? And what I would say is that we're not at the level of the Body Helix Flick F1 or really even where the Pro 4 or Gearbox GX2 power paddles are, but we are sitting a little bit below that in the same range as the Ripple V2s. That is to say, this paddle still has significant amount of power to it, more than the vast majority of paddles on the market. And to boot, it has pop that scores even higher percentile wise. What this means for playability is that at the net, you will need to find yourself taking a lot off of your shot in order to keep the ball in the court. And in the mid-court for resets, you will need to loosen your grip significantly more than average to keep the ball closer to the net line. So it makes this paddle very difficult to recommend to players under maybe the 4.0 to 4.5 skill level who may not be at that level of understanding in your game. To be fair, this isn't a challenge you'll only find with the Boomstik. You'll probably find it with many power paddles in this range. However, it's just something that came up a little bit more than usual during my experience. The final thing I'll mention on this point is that this paddle introduces a lot more loud, audible feedback to your shots than any Selkirk paddle has in the past. So if you're in a community where you need to be playing with quieter paddles, or in general you find yourself annoyed by the amount of loud audible feedback that you get from a typical Gen 3 paddle like a Yola Pro 4 or an 11624 power paddle, then this would not be the right paddle for you at all, as you do get a very audible boom, for lack of better terminology. And the final point and key takeaway that I want to touch on is the price and presentation of the paddle. Now, you may notice a lot of reviewers, including myself, showing this paddle inside a cool looking case very similar to the Project 007. The main thing to note there is that that case will only be available in a limited time quantity for the first several hundred orders of the paddle. For everyone else, the paddle should still come in its soft case with the Labs plaque and wooden card indicating its static weight. Now, when we get to price, the elongated and wide body Boomstiks will both be $333, and if you use my affiliate code INF-RAFA at checkout, it will get you $33 to the Selkirk Labs store credit. Selkirk did not pay me or otherwise financially incentivize me to do this review, and if you do use my affiliate link, it does provide me a small kickback that simply supports more of my growth on this channel. But you can't deny that that is an extremely high price to pay. Through my tour of the facility, seeing everything that is going on truly from an R&D process under the hood at Selkirk, and also through my conversation with 2/3 of the Selkirk ownership, Rob and Mike Barnes, which I posted earlier this week, it is easy for me to understand why they price in this range. Selkirk is simply at a level of durability testing and R&D that I've seen from the number of companies that I can count on one hand. So what you are essentially paying for is a premium in the Selkirk lineup to access more power, more spin, more dwell time, larger sweet spot than anything else that they are offering. You are also getting access to a limited lifetime warranty. Of note though, this warranty primarily covers manufacturing defects. It does not cover normal wear and tear, core crushing, which should be fairly impossible on this paddle, or any damage that may result of moving your MOI system. Don't move the MOI. So in the end, they know not everybody's going to go for this paddle. It's not in a price range that everybody can afford or is willing to pay, but they are attempting to offer something unique that if you can pay or price isn't a super big issue, then you get access to a lot of things that you can't get at lower price levels. Now, whether or not those things are worth it to you is completely up to your situation. But I know for me personally, that number still provides a little bit of sticker shock, and I think personally would be a bit of a tough ask, in particular when there's so many other durable Gen 4s on the market that are able to access good power still. In my opinion, the Project Boomstik should be reserved if you consider yourself a pretty advanced player and you're looking for a paddle that you can take out of the box stock and play with really good levels of dwell time, really high levels of power and pop, and of course, you don't mind a bit of that louder sound and a bit more muted ball feel in comparison to polypropylene based paddles that can hit that hard. You're also probably looking to make an investment in a paddle. You don't switch frequently, and you want your paddle to not only last a really long time, but regardless be covered by an extensive warranty. What I feel that the Boomstik offers that no other power paddle currently does is tangibly that much larger sweet spot even playing the paddle stock, as well as intangibly that very long extensive warranty and of course the promise of higher durability, which I have had the privilege of getting eyes on and can personally speak to. I think the main challenge that Selkirk will be running into is that, especially for people who maybe don't play enough to core crush paddles frequently, or in general really don't mind durability, there are other options on the market that are more powerful, have more spin, and of course, with a little paddle modifications, can really have a sweet spot that broadens up sufficiently for them. But that is it, my full unfiltered thoughts on the Project Boomstik. So if you made it here to the end, thank you so much for watching and for your support per usual. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment down below if you've already ordered the Boomstik, if you've already hit it, what your thoughts are on how it plays, or any other questions you may still have. And with all that said, I hope you stay happy and healthy, and of course, out on the courts. Until the next one. Peace.